Thank you all very much for joining us today and welcome to this virtual panel session. It's great to see some of you already joining, and we're expecting a lot more to join as well, looking at the number of registrations we've had. So it's good to have you here joining today for this, what's supposed to be quite an exciting discussion about cyber risks. Today's topic is new risks and future developments in the cybersecurity market. Are we prepared for new trends such as cloud and OT and all the other innovations coming from hackers? Now, today is a good topic, but what makes today's session even more exciting is actually the speakers we've got. So because I know I've met them all, they're going to share some valuable insights, and I will introduce them all in a moment. But let me first whet your appetite for today's session by taking you through the areas we're going to talk through today. So grab a pen and note down any ones of particular topic, because you'll want to ask questions as we go through. It's going to be an interactive session. So we're going to start by exploring the impact of hyperscalers on the future of the cybersecurity market. Then we're going to have a little bit of fun, a competition comparing the risks of cloud computing versus OT environments. Which, in your view, is the riskier? And we'll see whether you agree with our panelists. Then we're going to dive into what drives innovation in cybersecurity, which will then lead us nicely on to the trends and focus for 2023. Do type any questions that you have in the chat during the discussions. And if you want to remain anonymous, just send a chat privately to me and I will read it out. Because this session will be recorded and the recording will be available in a few days, of course, available from our cybercompare.com website. The other point is to keep your phones handy, as we have a few polls we will ask you to participate in. And what you'll see is a QR code and a code to go into slido.com, and that will appear on the screen at the right time. So let me start by introducing our moderator, Simeon from CyberCompare.
Thank you very much, Claire. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the session together with you. My name is Simeon. I'm part of the team at CyberCompare with a background in OT and in consulting, and looking forward to the interesting discussion we have here today and leading you through the discussion together with Claire.
That's great. Now I would like to introduce Ben. I allow him to introduce himself and tell us about his current role and his experience, and in particular, his ability to slay Trojan horses. So tell us more about that.
Hi, thanks. So I'm Ben. I'm working for Ströer for about a year now. I'm responsible for the group information security for the information security for the whole group. Ströer is a very complex company with about more than 100 subsidiaries. We are doing a lot of stuff from digital billboards to analog billboards to stuff like the online, Statista and others. And one thing that I really love to have in focus is that security that we are doing needs to be human-centered. That means that our employees are not our enemies. We are not going to tell them you have to do that or you die, but we try to work with them. Our security policies, digestible. Before, I've been in the consulting area for about 15 years, running larger teams or business units for Capgemini, CGI, and the like. And well, sacrificing of Trojan horses, yeah, I think that's just a nice kind of thing to say.
Pastime.
It's clickbait, actually.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much, Ben. And now we move on to our next panelist, Christoph, who comes from our parent company, Bosch, with some amazing experience in the area of AI. So please go ahead, Christoph, and tell us more.
Thanks, Claire, for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Christoph, and my background is actually in software development, in cybersecurity and AI. I came to Bosch to build up the Bosch Center for Artificial Intelligence. Some of you know it, perhaps. And now I work on digital trust and on cybersecurity for Bosch. And most importantly, I'm an advisor as well for CyberCompare.
Excellent. Thank you, Christoph. And let's hear from our final panelist, Marcus, who I'll ask to say a little bit about his experience of setting up a cyber practice at Bosch and Petrolab, and his background.
Hi, Markus Weisensee, also happy to be here. I work at Fuchs Petrolub since 2016 now as a Chief Information Security Officer. As Claire mentioned, we built up the cybersecurity organization from scratch, really. We did not have something like that in place on a global scale before. And before I joined Fuchs, I also worked in the consulting industry, where I've seen a lot of the big players, I think like 11 of the 30 DAX companies I've seen from the inside, where I collected a lot of experience, especially in the area of IT strategies and also information security, which was not that big back in those days, but became really big. And I think that's also the reason why we are all here today and in this nice round to have this discussion. So I'm looking really forward to the panel discussion.
Indeed, I think all the audience will be impressed with the amount of experience that we bring into the calls today. So let me hand over to Simeon to kick us off with our first topic.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Claire. Yeah, and as Claire already mentioned, we want to discuss some provocative statements maybe and also gain the feedback from the audience here and also obviously from the speakers we have here. So the first area we want to touch on is the succeeding market consolidation we actually have within the cybersecurity space on the provider side. And we see that in our daily work with our customers, that every more and more customers just say, well, why do I not only just continue with Microsoft and take the next package of Microsoft? So we see that the big hyperscalers, especially also Google with acquiring Mandiant, are investing heavily in acquisition, but also investing in building up people, building up technology to expand their services across the line. And so the opening statement, so to say, would be is if in future we actually only need the hyperscaler as our security partner, and that this hyperscaler, whatever it is it Microsoft, Google, Amazon, whoever, will be then my only point of contact within the security space, because this hyperscaler actually covers the complete value chain of cybersecurity. And maybe as a fruitful thought at the beginning, let's look at the recent result from a Gartner poll, where they actually asked companies how they see the vendor consolidation or the provider consolidation within the cybersecurity market. And you just see from on the left side as a result that just in recent years, in the last 2 years, the organizations that are visibly following this market consolidation is increasing dramatically from just a third 2 years ago to 3/4 just in this year. So we see that there is a market consolidation, and also 65% of these companies actually believe that they can improve their risk posture if vendor consolidation continues. On the other side, only 29 of these are actually looking into that will lead to a reduction of costs in the end of terms. But it's a clear visibility of how companies are actually looking at this market consolidation. And maybe to start off the conversation also with the group after looking at this poll is maybe addressing Ben in the first part. Well, what do you believe are common pitfalls that you've learned about hyperscalers within your organization or within your experience as a consultant, and how do you actually view the topic of vendor consolidation here?
Well, thanks. I think that's an interesting topic. to be honest, it's the same pitfalls than without the hyperscalers. To focus too much on tools and not enough on processes and people. And I think that's the same issue with all of that. I don't like vendor consolidation that much either, because on terms of stuff like that, I'd rather have 2 or 3 vendors. And I don't want to have everything in the, I don't know, X cloud whatsoever. I'd rather have 2 or 3 cloud providers. I might have different business models with different needs. And yeah.
And maybe just following up on that, if you were maybe also a CISO of a smaller company, and this is just the most pragmatic way to continue with relying on rather a limited amount of vendors, what, in your opinion, would be your recommendation to an organization that actually is pursuing the way of limiting their number of different vendors? So what should they look out on?
I think that's quite a tough question, because you can't give the one-and-fitting answer to that. I think it really depends on where the company stands we are thinking about. And my first advice would be do your homework first. Get ahead of all that patch management, know how your identities are working, and do just that things that might be kind of security related since 30 years. So for instance, if you don't have any asset management, just don't buy anything else. Try to get that in place, because if you don't know what you need to protect, you can't protect it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ben there. Christoph, what is your view in general on the vendor consolidation? How do you view it from your position?
It's a sure sign that the market is advanced and quite ripe. In IT, you always see there are patterns towards the mainstream computers and then away from it again. Now we have this time of consolidation as well. Everybody goes to the cloud because there are clearly benefits from having things in the cloud. However, people will realize at some point, I'm sure we have not reached the peak yet, that there is not everything should be in the cloud, because the hyperscalers, they don't do it only for the good of mankind, but there might be some business interests in that involved as well. And the business of hyperscalers is sharing infrastructure and processing capacities between many customers. And for that, to optimize on that, they have to move data hand and forth, so that it's difficult to really say where is something located. And all this this management of the data is incredibly complex, and thus has inherent vulnerabilities. Of course, I'm sure they have the finest IT security guys. Yeah? If you take the vendors, they are really, they have good experts and a very attractive target as well. Right? So, and attacking hyperscalers scales nicely, because so many interesting data assets are in the cloud. Right, and so it's a risk management process to decide what to put on the cloud and what not, and how to weigh the risks, what you will have in your own protection area and what you could easily give in the cloud. And so I think, although cloud might be for many things very attractive, there still will always be things you do not want to put in the cloud.
Yeah, thank you. Very good thought there. And maybe just also a second question. I mean, we are in the middle of cloud migration, at least most of us. I mean, we see it in our daily work that some companies have just started, some companies are already fully on AWS or wherever they are hosted, or Azure. When we look at maybe the changes in the security architecture moving into a cloud, and new also security aspects to consider, what role, in your opinion, do hyperscalers actually play in this change, both organization and technical? So what do you have to look after if you are moving into the cloud?
So as someone who puts data into the cloud and doesn't want to put all data into the cloud, you basically have to consider three elements. Firstly, the data which stays residential on your systems. So you have to keep track of that and have to care for all associated security issues here. Secondly, then data which is in the cloud, that this is secure and it does comply with your company regulations, with law and everything. And for that, I think most hyperscalers give tremendous support. And then you have the interface between both worlds. And this is a tricky part. Most difficulties which turn up security-wise with cloud issues are not so much that the data in the cloud is hacked or so, or it's really on the provider side, but the interface is often quite complex. And there you do not get all the help perhaps you should need, because it's perhaps too complicated, and the motivation of the hyperscaler side is really to bring you to the point that you put almost everything to the cloud, so that you make this interface very small, right? But this interface and the configuration of this, the complexity which lies in this third field, this is the most critical, the most complex, the most complicated, and here most things happening. But you have, if you want to play in both worlds, you have to cover this. And this makes life for security professionals a bit difficult.
Excellent points. Thank you very much, Christoph. And then maybe handing over to Markus, maybe first general your view on the consolidation as a total.
Yeah, from my experience throughout the last years, we came from a highly diversified portfolio of vendor solutions. We almost had everything you can imagine in the IT security infrastructure perspective, and we highly consolidated it to one of the large hyperscalers. And I would like to pick up one point that Christoph already mentioned, which I think is really important, that you have an experienced partner at your side. So I can just, I mean, it always depends on the size of the company, but if you look at the medium-sized company or higher, you should definitely have a partner at your side, like a CSP, helping you on the journey towards the cloud and getting rid of all this ancient and diversified security infrastructure services you might have in your portfolio. I think everyone has quite similar problems with regards to that currently. Yeah. So that would be my recommendation here, to have an experienced partner at your side, helping you on this journey.
And building on that, because you already talked about medium-sized companies, so moving to the cloud and thereby also profiting of a potential consolidation. In your opinion, Markus, is that something everyone can do? Is that something rather larger, smaller, without OT? So which company profiles where you believe can be already ready to move quite significant parts to the cloud, and where do you believe it's maybe not there yet to move?
I think those services are currently, for the time being, they are already that mature that I would say all companies can move, take the step towards the cloud. Yeah, I think we are currently already on a level where I wouldn't exclude any sized companies, medium, smaller or bigger sized companies. I mean, if we talk about huge corporations, we most likely talk about parts of companies that could also be brought to the cloud. Yeah, so you can also distinguish and slice and dice a bit. So it really depends on the companies. Yeah, I see Ben, he's nodding his head. He works for some kind of company that has that shape I just mentioned, yeah, where you have different groups. So it really depends, yeah. But I would say I wouldn't exclude any sized companies anymore, yeah. I think those
and
days are
maybe,
over.
Sorry. Maybe as a final question also, Marcus, is what we hear sometimes, at least at medium-sized companies, is the statement like, okay, I moved it to the cloud, so someone will take care. I mean, Christoph already mentioned a bit about the complexity, especially in the interfaces, but do you have other points, especially for people that believe everything will be fine and my security is covered? So what would you recommend to these groups?
I mean, if we talk, for instance, normally we focus heavily on Office 365, this office world, but I would also take a look on like the ERP, the SAP world, for instance, where you can also see a huge trend going to the cloud. That's what we do currently. Of course, everyone is doing the S4 journey plans currently, all companies. Yeah. So I think you also have to distinguish a bit between the systems you talk about, that can be brought to the cloud. So it's not that one and only cloud. You also have the SaaS solutions that we heavily use also, where we pick out some solutions which we procure as SaaS solutions. We also build up our own solutions in Azure, for instance. So it always, of course, depends also on the service and the systems you talk about or you look at.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And maybe closing the first part of the conversation, we will start our first poll and ask the audience on their opinion around the consolidation. So if we can show the first poll, and then I guess, as Claire already mentioned, there's a QR code, so scan it with your camera of your phone, and you should be directly redirected to the right spot. And maybe let's give the audience some time to log in and actually participate in our conversation on where do you believe the future will stand? Will it be the one hyperscaler covering all security aspects, or will the fragmented, diverse market that we have today actually continue in our view? And maybe let's check how the bar will move. We have the first no's coming in. Let's see if there are a few voting in the other direction. Or maybe only one wanted to vote. It can always be if you have 100%. I hope it works. So now it's going to continuing. So people are coming in. Let us know if you have any technical problems. We will try to cover. And maybe let's give it another second. I will, after that, then also hand over to Claire for the second question, but let's maybe wait a few seconds. I guess the picture already is quite clear. I don't believe that it will shift in the other direction. So I guess many of the participants in the audience are also convinced that it will not probably, the yes is coming up, following up, but I guess the large majority is still convinced that we will continue having different security providers and not having the one hyperscaler taking care of all our security. So with that, Claire, I would hand over to you.
Thank you very much. So now we're going to move on to the rather fun mini competition or debate, I should call it. So this is on the topic of, are you more at risk from your cloud environments, which we just talked about, or your OT environments? And kind of also link with that then, is OT security only relevant in terms of critical infrastructure or the security of OT? So the competition is, which, in your view, should the audience or all of us really focus on first? Is cloud your priority or O2? So we've got O2, even OT. Cloud is relatively new technology, as we're saying. It's at the cutting edge with constant updates. And I think, as Christoph was saying, that those interfaces, and particularly when it's all right if you're a cloud native organization and everything's in the cloud, but many companies have got a bit of a blend of both. And so we do see some successful attacks in the cloud environment. It is, as the panelists were saying, quite a juicy target for would-be hackers. And then at the other side of the ring in this debate is the OT environment, quite the opposite, very legacy systems, perhaps not being updated for a long time. And even when they are updated, it's quite hard to get them updated. So which, in your view, is actually riskier? So we're going to start this in the reverse by holding a poll and get your views as the audience before coming to our panelists. So I'm expecting the poll to appear in the screens now. And if you've already logged in on your phones, you should see the question pop up as well. And I'm just going to check mine. Has that worked? Yes, that question should be coming up in your phones now. So please jump in. We've had an early lead by the cloud. Not many votes coming in, or I don't know. I can't see how many people have voted, but either everybody thinks it's the cloud. No, we've got some. Oh gosh, look, it's almost neck and neck, but the cloud is suddenly back in the lead. We've got a lot of movement on the OT environment as people are voting. It looks like the cloud is most, but we slowly see the OT environment creeping up. Okay. Oh, it's leapt ahead. So we're almost half and half. So we're starting to see more people with OT environments coming in and voting, I suspect. In my own background, having worked at Shell, we had definitely a mix of cloud and OT environments. So it's not an easy question to answer, but it's one that I think the panel is up for. So I'm going to first turn to Marcus to kick off this battle and tell us if you think that OT environments get the right level of attention.
I mean, if you look at a typical attack, that normally starts nowadays, it starts more or less in the cloud. They try to take over accounts. They try to hack the user accounts and try to get privileged accounts, try to laterally move towards the more critical systems, which are typically, when we talk about producing companies, that are the production systems. There we talk about the OT, and there they can do the biggest damage, of course, because of production downtime. So normally the typical type of attack starts in the cloud and laterally moves towards the OT environment, but still you also have some loopholes and weak spots also in the OT environments, typically because they are really old. Normally you have unsigned Windows Server versions, you have Windows XP versions running there, you have RDP open, you have SMB where the attackers can spread inside of the network and do the biggest damage. So I think it's a combination of both. You have to tackle both worlds. That's and I also can see that from the vendors that approach me. I think OT has become also a topic for the security vendors. It's on their agenda, which hasn't been the case like 2 or 3 years ago. So I see a lot of companies also starting bigger penetration testings also in the operation technology environment. So I think it's getting bigger, and it's almost like a little hype is starting also in this area, in this field. That's
I'm sure attacks like Colonial Pipeline make it much more prominent, and new regulations around critical national infrastructure. If there's anybody on the call who now has to follow with some of those new regulations as well. But a challenging environment to get secure is all the things you said there about it being legacy and somewhat neglected a little bit over the last few years. But yeah, interesting to see that cloud, is it one or the other? But actually cloud could be used as an avenue to get to OT. So Ben, perhaps it would be valuable for the audience if you share some of your experience with cloud security.
Well, actually, to answer the question, I'm actually on Marco's side. So the attack surface for cloud is much larger. And we still have a perimeter on most of the OT stuff. But I would join forces with OT if we have OT in the cloud. So if we have something like virtualized stuff, lift and shift in some cloud things. About cloud security, I think if you don't lift and shift, but you start from scratch, then you have good chances that your, I don't know, engineers think security in that, so that you will be more secure than if you just keep your old stuff running. But if you do lift and shift, and actually if you lift some shit somewhere else, it's still shit. So yeah, I think don't lift and shift if it's not a very new application which you really have under control. Yeah,
definitely that you don't want to just hyperscale your mess. That's not the idea of cloud computing. But an interesting view about where you can blend the cloud and OT. I think you're just hedging your bets on the competition there between the two.
And Claire, you said it's just a neglected topic. I think it's quite similar to SAP security topics, also like a little black box. No one is really daring to open that because they're afraid they cannot handle the things that come out there. So that's quite similar from my perspective.
Yeah, and I think well, in my experience, there's a limited knowledge of OT. It's precious skills, but I also find the same with cloud, but for different reasons. OT because it's old and finding all the people who've got the expertise is hard, but cloud because it keeps evolving, sometimes it's hard for all your staff to keep pace with the latest changes that have been released and understand how that impacts your security. So Christoph, in your experience, how do you see the risks of these very different technologies comparing?
Yeah, like it was already said, so the attack surface in theory of cloud is bigger, and it's a very attractive target since it's highly standardized, and so attacks scale better. However, as I said earlier, the hyperscalers have brilliant and very proficient security teams which can compensate that. And so, for instance, all the help which is currently done in Ukraine by some of proficient hyperscalers, they're helping to safeguard the infrastructure there. You see that they're really proficient. And what could help OT is that it's so diverse and so difficult to attack, because it's you have so many diverse systems, and you need expertise to have in each of them to attack them. However, as OT often is in many companies a little bit, let's say, neglected, because it serves a special purpose. It's crucial for earning money, for producing something, and so the actually production process is more salient in the brain of people, and IT just has to serve a purpose, and is a bit neglected. Yeah, is treated like a donkey or so. Yeah, just has to run, and this offers and opens a wide attack area. Yeah, and so we have systems which are not really good cared for, open ports, and you name it, and people even bypass regulations from their IT department because it's more convenient and so on. So as a matter of fact, we have more open issues there, and we think that in general the attack surface of OT is, due to this handling, really bigger than the vulnerabilities in the cloud.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up a lot of points there. I mean, I would say it's a little bit of the neglected, but it's also a little bit special as well. You say like people bypass stuff, and I think in my experience, it's a world of exceptions made for different reasons for like production and things like that. So as you say, people have open ports or bypass the proxy and stuff like that because of probably valid reasons or seen as really important reasons without necessarily visibility into it. I think Ben was saying earlier, it's really hard to secure what you can't see, and often that's a problem in this this space.
Of course,
so
not with us, but I have read about it, right?
Yeah, of course. Never, not with any of the companies we've ever worked with, but we have heard through a friend that other companies have these issues.
Actually, I kind of disagree with what Christoph said. So he said that the hyperscalers have brilliant people taking care of security. And I totally agree with that. They take care of their hyperscaler security, but they don't take care of your security. And a lot of executives I met in the past thought if they move to the cloud because Amazon, Microsoft, whoever has great engineers, they will be secure. And that's a pit. Actually, that's not the case. You have to take care about your own security then.
Yeah, but this is not what I said. So I think we don't have a disagreement there.
Good.
Yeah. So they really have brilliant people who secure their offering. What's beyond their offering, and not all your IT is in their offering. They of course have less incentives and less interest to care for that as well.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I think that's where I've seen, Ben, as well, that people can have it's difficult because your own IT folk, and sometimes not even really your IT departments with sort of more low code or no code environments, digitalization, people are spinning up their own cloud environments. Perhaps they don't particularly fully understand some of the security choices they're making as they click through setting up new environments. So there's a difference between those, as you rightly said, securing the cloud environment. So Azure servers or Amazon AWS servers are not hacked versus making sure your data is as secure as it can be. So two different areas. But I think we're bringing that topic to a close and moving on to the next one, which Simeon's going to take us through.
Thank you very much, Claire. Listening interested with many questions, but I'm not part of asking questions on the last topic we had now. But let's move on to the next question, and that is again a kind of area to look into. Maybe also there more provocative statement around it, and the topic is: are hackers the better innovators than the security industry? So, we are in the field of a match with either side investing money, also the hacker side or the specials or the dark side hackers. And there are different kinds of hackers, to be clear. Investing money, gaining money from ransomware attacks where they were successful, reinvesting this money and getting even better tools. Ransomware as a service. All of us here in the room, I guess, know what I'm talking about. And the question really is: are they actually doing a better job in further developing their methods, their tools, their professionality in a way than the security industry is actually managing to cope with it? So is the security industry actually running after the hackers and they are the innovators, or is it the other way around? And I guess attached to that question, maybe also looking into what should companies do? So should companies actually invest own money to develop their security innovation, to improve their posture by own tools, by own things to do? And maybe with the next poll, we can look into this question, just what the audience brings from it. And I guess as soon as the poll has started, I hope, there it is, perfect, thank you. And also, I guess, for the question round, right? It's two sides of the topic, right? On the one hand, the race between the two sides, let's put it that way, and how are you positioned as a customer of the providers, and if you want, as a customer of the hackers, or their customer, maybe let's put it that way. And what should you as a company actually do? Should you really spend money on security innovations, or should you invest more into the security products of a vendor in comparison to that, to really keep up with this race? And maybe we just give it a few seconds to see how the poll is running. I guess this for now at least is a great, and let's put it, unclear statement or very, very balanced statement. As I guess it is a difficult question, every company has to answer it on themselves based on their risk profile in the end. But I guess it's a race around the 50% here, and maybe maybe handing the question to Christoph, or maybe starting actually with the question of who, in your opinion, is the better innovator, if you can say so.
So frankly, we have hackers which are very, very smart and highly motivated. And what plays in their hands as well is that they have to be successful at one point. And if you defend, you have to cover everything and each single day. Yeah, so this is like attrition warfare. And you get a sort of fatigue, yeah, if you have to watch all the time. So hackers clearly are in the better position. And what plays a crucial role as well, I said earlier, so that IT is highly complex. And what we see now with all that many IT systems, legacy systems, new systems, and everything in place, that it's more and more difficult to keep track, and that we as society produce too less experts to keep track of that complexity and to run all those systems responsibly. So actually what plays then again in the hand of the hackers, of the attackers, is this information asymmetry, to know how systems really work. And in security, the devil lies in the details. And you have to have really very sophisticated IT knowledge to make use of some hidden vulnerabilities and exploit them. And if you have these insights as a hacker, you can make them work for you. So, and turn the field in your favor. And for defenders who have a core business, which normally often is not in the IT area, and really understanding what tools and systems they are using, it's too much to ask. Yeah? So they are per se in a difficult position. This doesn't mean now that they have to invest their money in innovation, because this is a lost race. But what they should do is investing in awareness. So to make a company secure, people are an incredible important asset in any way. And you have to have the right skills, the right knowledge, tools, and the right attitude. And knowledge and attitude and operation of tools can be trained. And this is something people should invest in. And then for specific things, they can ask somebody. Yeah, this is, for instance, the reason that I am consulting a certain company. And there is a place in the world for such companies, because if you have to make your money with some physical assets or so, and you need IT as donkey, just to do the labor, it doesn't make sense that you invest in IT innovation. You should care about your core business. However, train your people with respect to skills, knowledge, tools, and attitude, that they avoid doing IT blunders. And then for the more sophisticated things, you can bring in experts and ask people. That would be my take on that.
Perfect. Wow, that was a 360-degree answer already. Thank you very much, Christoph. And maybe turning to Ben, what is your view on the race of innovations between the two sides? Let's put it that way.
Well, I don't see that much innovation here. In my mind, the hackers are just some software quality assurance guys. And if for myself or the vendors I buy software from would spend more money on testing, then we would not have that much breaches. We will have breaches, sure, but other types of stuff we can probably fix with awareness. I'm on that side. And I don't know, not a lot of those hacks are innovations. So 0 day isn't an innovation. It's just someone found a bug no one knows about. So I don't see any innovation here. It's just making use of things that no one else knew.
Christoph, you tend to disagree. Do you want to comment?
Yes, but I think, again, we will not have a real dispute here. There are many low-hanging fruits in security for which you do not need innovation, but we have really sophisticated attack tools as well. Yeah, really bright people, medium-sized companies which work with experts and who build very precise attack tools. Yeah, there is a market, there is a service, attack tools as a service. So this digitalization and platform business, unfortunately, works both sides, for dark business models, unwanted business models, and the normal business models. So we have those dark entrepreneurs really, and they come up with highly sophisticated tools. However, most people use the low-hanging fruits.
Ben, is that answer fine for you?
Yeah, well, actually, I think we kind of said the same thing. So most of the hacking stuff is just making use of bugs. And there are sophisticated state actors, stuff like that. I don't want
There's
to
innovation. There's innovation in hacking, yeah, definitely. Good.
But not that much. Most of that thing is just taking care that someone didn't use his homework. So if we have a look at all that ransomware stuff, there's not a lot of innovation in that. It's probably innovation in how to encrypt and do things and got an algorithm for that. But on the spreading and things, it's just making use of vulnerabilities. Someone didn't really patch and didn't do his homework.
Maybe to bring in Markus into the discussion. What is your view?
I think
who is innovating better?
From my perspective, it's like twofold. On the one hand, if we talk about the products you create, I can come up with the buzzwords like DevSecOps and secure by design. I would rather invest in secure products and not invest in finding the next big thing the attackers could use to attack us, because when I take a look at the reports I always get every week, yeah, for all the vulnerabilities in all the big vendor services like Adobe, Apple, Microsoft, SAP, every week they have vulnerabilities they need to patch. And the attackers will always be one step ahead. If I take, for instance, multi-factor authentication, everyone thought if we have that implemented, we are secure, all accounts are secure. Then we get SIM swapping. I take a look at Jack Dorsey's Twitter account, who was hacked with SIM swapping just some weeks ago. So there's always something coming up at the horizon to bypass the security. So the only thing you can do is raise the hurdles for the attackers as high as you can in order to make it not that beneficial for them anymore to attack you. Yeah. So that from my perspective, that's the only thing you can do, and you will always lag one step behind.
So for you, the dark side is innovating better.
Yes.
Very good. And maybe also one more question is, like, I mean, on innovation, there are many innovations and going against it. And Claire just mentioned that maybe, and Markus, you actually picked on it already, but maybe you expanding it a bit. Like, I mean, the typical phishing attacks and things like that are getting better. You can now say, okay, is that innovation, just that it's not a prince from somewhere writing an email, but something targeted and better, and also from the tools that are provided. What is your view there?
Was it for me? Sorry,
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, of course. I would rather go towards awareness once again, because we also had the topic awareness already for like the office staff, for instance, but we talked about the operational technology, for instance, already as well. And I also would rather go for like educational modules for the blue collar workers as well, in order to give them a hint how they should behave with the technology, not to pull in the USB sticks and things like that. So we at the moment we are very focusing on the office workers, the white collar workers, to avoid that they get hacked, that they get phished. But we also need to educate more the blue collar working staff. That's my experience as well, because they have no bad intentions. They just don't know that they should not put in their private USB sticks and exchange pictures with their colleagues in the breaks. Things like that happen, and it's not a bad intention by them. It's just that they sometimes do not know it better. Yeah? So we also perhaps need to tackle that one from an educational awareness perspective as well. And that's a bit missing from my perspective currently when I look at the offers from all the awareness providers in the market. That's perhaps something that could be added here.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, the programs, training, and everything often focus on around the typical user of a computer, Windows user usually, and the other attack vectors that malicious code can come into the company are often neglected. I'm fully there. Yeah. Very good. I guess that we have enough time also for the next statements and also the Q&A session. Just before I hand over back to Claire, I ask the audience also type in your questions because in the next minutes we will move on to the Q&A session. So type in your questions, anything that you would like to raise within the group, and we will take care to answer as many as we manage within the remaining time. And with that, handing over back to Claire.
Thank you. And it has been an interesting debate. I was eager to jump into some of those topics as well. But it's excellent discussions. And I just have a final question for the panelists. It is a tough one, like all the ones we've been asking in the polls as well. We're now in the fourth quarter of 2022 already. So looking ahead for next year, what will be your focus in 2023? Ben, if you start.
Yeah, sure. So actually, I think the focus for the next year should be for all companies that have a large attack surface, an attack surface management solution, or an attack surface management process whatsoever, to get a feeling about how big is my attack surface. And actually, we did that this year, and we discovered a lot of websites we didn't know that we own, or websites that have been, I don't know, not ours, but should be, and stuff like that.
So coming back to that, you can't protect what you don't know about.
Yes.
So finding out what's your real attack surface, which is hard when businesses go off and buy businesses and things like that, and mergers and acquisitions. A lot's happened in the last few years. So sounds a good tip.
That's true, but you can actually do that very automatic from the internet. So you feed some solution, some info, and the rest they do their own. So you don't need much input from your companies or whoever.
That's good if you've got the information there. And Ben, I'm sorry, I've done Ben. Marcus, if I can come to you.
Yeah, we will definitely move on with our security operations center, which we recently implemented, because I think it's critical, mission critical, I would even say, to have something like that in place if you're working in the cloud, to have something like a cloud security operations center that is having an eye on all those alerts that come out of the systems, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, Microsoft Defender for Identity, and all those things that need to be managed, that need to be monitored. And you get a lot of transparency and insights into your landscape, your infrastructure, and you will be able to cope with them. Otherwise, they just will stay under the surface, and you won't even know what's going on there without that. So that would be my recommendation here.
That's good, and getting all those feeds and the huge volumes of data that you see these days. Tough challenge for 2023 for you then. And finally, let's ask Christoph, what are you going to be focused on in 2023?
Actually, I'm a bit influenced by the current situation, by the global situation. And I'm concerned by the recent, let's call it, attacks on critical infrastructure. And so we definitely will prepare for cyber attacks. And for cyber attacks per se, and for dealing with the secondary effects and outages of critical infrastructure also, and business continuation processes. I think given the situation we are in, this is a same thing to me.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I want to allow time for questions coming through. We have one here which asks, what are the largest obstacles you've cannot overcome to implement cloud security in either in your organization or that you believe that other similar organizations might suffer? I imagine that last bit that the people are asking your organization, but as we said, it's being recorded, so you don't have to be entirely transparent. But if you can give a view about what you see as being those big obstacles to cloud security. Firstly, I will go to Ben.
Well, actually, I think I mentioned that before, that a lot of executives think if you move to the cloud, you will be secure. So we don't have to invest in cloud security because the cloud security provider we use already did that for us.
That's your biggest obstacle.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if either Christoph or Marcus want to comment on that.
Yeah, Marcus first.
Yeah, I think it's like two steps. You have to take the first and the biggest step, most likely, is the one to get the money in order to purchase something like a cloud security operations center or those licenses that are necessary to get those services. And once you have that, then the second step comes. You need to involve all your, if we talk about our company, we have like 60 companies around the world, yeah, and you can imagine a lot of IT departments of different sizes, different shapes, different knowledge levels, and you need to involve them and take them into the journey, because they need to also do work on site. Roll out Microsoft Defender for Endpoint would be one example, yeah. So you also need to take them on the journey. It's not just you put on a switch centrally and everything is there and working fine. And so it's a journey, and you should not forget to take also the employees and especially the IT staff with you on this journey, of course.
Yeah, the biggest obstacles are often the same group, like the biggest assets we have. It's people. It's work on the awareness, as Ben said, regarding to understand what part is then covered by the cloud providers and what you have to do yourself. Then, as Marcus said, taking people with you on the journey. And then thirdly, working on the interfaces and the processes of bringing data from your own systems safely to the cloud and vice versa, and doing the configuration of all that intermediate steps and interfaces right. This interface thing, be it human, be it technical, I think it's the most difficult.
Excellent. Well, thank you all very much for answering those tough questions and bringing together all of the discussions we've had today. It's been fascinating. I think we could talk a lot longer. It feels like the hour's gone really, really quickly. What's been fascinating to see is how closely the voting has been on some of these topics. So I think it's clear that there's not one answer that's applicable to all organizations, and there are quite complicated topics to go through. We've had a good discussion on the advantages of clouds, the difficulty of clouds, some of the good parts of OT and not, whether hackers are innovators, and what we can do as companies as well. And thank you very much for sharing what you see as the priorities for 2023. So I hope everybody who's joined us today got as much out of it as we did. I would like to thank all the panelists and all our guests for joining us today. Have a good rest of your week, and we look forward to connecting again soon. Take care.
Thanks a lot.